Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day everyone. Before we jump into the video, let me introduce myself. My name is Desti Subekti with student ID number 22232400093 from the English Education Department, Universitas Sultan Ageng Tirtayasa. So, in this video, I'm going to presenting my in-depth analysis regarding instructional design development titled Curriculum Analysis on ELT Grade 11 Phase F Senior High School of the Merdeka Curriculum. And this analysis is also complemented by a practical document which is a text-based modul ajar or lesson plan. Let us begin with the background of why this analysis is crucial, because a curriculum is truly not just a pile of static materials transferred from textbooks into students' brains, but instead it serves a dynamic foundation that guides teachers in designing meaningful learning experiences. In Indonesia, we are currently experiencing a major transformation through a Merdeka curriculum. This reform is driven by real challenges, one of which is reflected in PISA, Program for International Student Assessments data, which indicates low levels of literacy and numeracy among our students on a global scale. Within the context of English language teaching or ELT, the Merdeka curriculum demands a paradigm shift, which is English is no longer just about memorizing grammatical formulas, but rather it is positioned as a tool for communication, critical thinking, and personal development. So therefore, this project focuses on three primary questions, which are: how are the core competencies of Phase F designed, which language skills are emphasized, and how are the essential materials organized so that 11th grade students can achieve these global competencies. So the first point I analyzed is the learning outcomes or capaian pembelajaran. In Phase F, based on the latest curriculum guidelines, the ultimate target of English instruction in Phase F is actually to guide students toward a proficiency level equivalent to B1 and ideally progressing toward B2 on the CEFR standard. And at this level, students are expected to comprehend the main ideas of complex texts, maintain interactions, and express their thoughts clearly in real-life context. And here are the three essential elements that are closely integrated within Phase F, namely first, listening and speaking, where students are trained to respond to oral messages and express their arguments verbally. And second, reading and viewing, which trains students to perform critical evaluations of both printed texts and digital multimodal texts. As a third, writing and presenting, which requires students to produce structured texts and present them effectively to an audience. So those three integration of these three elements is actually fully expected to foster critical thinking and collaborative skills in our students. And next, let us break down the curriculum structure. English language learning in Phase F is allocated intensively with a total of 20 JP in one semester, which is distributed across 16 to 18 effective weeks. But for me, 16 weeks. Based on this time allocation, I have established the most relevant essential topic to develop the critical reasoning of 11th graders is actually discussion text. Why? Okay, why discussion text? Because this genre actually focuses students to stop looking at phenomenon from just a single point of view, but students are actually challenged to analyze a controversial issue, map out the pro or supporting arguments, contrast them with the con or opposing arguments, and finally draw a logical conclusion based on facts and data. This materials is actually distributed progressively over an entire semester, starting from initial visual prompts all the way to independent text production. And now I will explain the instructional design ideas that form the core of this learning plan. Here, I integrate three pillars of pedagogical approaches, which are the genre-based approach or GBA, communicative language teaching, and problem-based learning. And also I have systematically structured the learning objective sequence or ATP into 5 major stages over 16 weeks. Weeks 1 and to 3, we'll begin our learning with an introduction to discussion text using the building knowledge of the field syntax, where students are oriented toward real contextual problems around them. And then in weeks 4 to 6, the focus will shift to critical analysis, which in this phase students are actually need to learn to how separate objective facts from subjective opinions within a text. In week 7 to 9, this is the argument construction phase under the collaborative guidance of the teacher, and then students learn to draft valid arguments with the help of the teacher. And then weeks 10 to 13, we're going to moving into drafting and coherence. This week, students are expected to independently compose a complete text outline, paying close attention to cohesion, coherence, and the mechanics. And then lastly, the weeks 14 to 16 is the finalization phase, which where students focus on presenting. They transition their written text into spoken forms, either through classroom debates or audiovisual presentations. And now we're going to look at the concrete implementation in the module Ajar that I designed from SMA N 19 Kabupaten Tangerang for the 2025 to 2026 academic year. In the very first meeting, which lasts for a duration of 2 jam pelajaran, the primary focus is actually to stimulate students' critical thinking. During the building knowledge of the field stage, I do not immediately hand them a long text. Instead, I spark their curiosity and emotions by using a contextual visual stimulus, a photo of like primary school children riding electric motorcycles on public roads, by asking prompting questions like, is it the biggest win or the biggest risk for elementary students going to school with motorcycles? And then students are encouraged to speak up and engage in discussion from the very first minute. Following that, in the modeling of the text stage, I present a complete discussion text side by side with its structural labels like the issue, the pros, the cons, and conclusion within the text. This visual picture is actually helps students to bridge the gap between abstract theory and real analysis, and it will allowing them to understand the social functions and linguistic features such as modal verbs and conjunction in a highly contextual manner. Another essential component of this module is actually the continuous assessment strategy. In line with the essence of the Merdeka curriculum, I implement a diagnostic assessment at the beginning to map out a student's initial cognitive readiness. It helps determine whether they can already think in a balanced way or if their views are still one-sided. Furthermore, formative assessment is actually conducted continuously throughout the GBA process through a collaborative text mapping, a task in LKPD 1, and an independent task in LKPD 2. From the need analysis, the greatest challenges on the ground are actually the heterogeneous proficiency levels of the students and time constraints. Therefore, the follow-up strategy in this curriculum actually provides a remedial program using shorter texts for students who need extra guidance, as well as enrichment program in the form of independent social text analysis for advanced students. And as a conclusion and the final reflection on this project, the curriculum analysis of phase F in the Merdeka curriculum demonstrates that integrating GBA and problem-based learning is highly effective for me in bringing an active classroom atmosphere to life. As a personal reflection, prioritizing the communicative approach as the ultimate goal ensures that students do not just memorize grammar formulas or text structures on paper. Beyond that, we want to build our students to confidence so that in the real world they can be brave, logic, and fluent when expressing their opinions of or defending their arguments during future meetings, formal debates, or discussions. And that's a wrap of my presentation. Thank you very much for the time and attention given. I sincerely apologize for any flaws in my presentation. And I'm Desti Subekti signing off from this presentation. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.